Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again, doing another discography countdown for you today. And today I'm very excited to be talking about Blut Aus Nord. These guys, if you've never heard them before, they do hail from France, and they are a very unique band. Been around quite a while. I think they started around 1994 to the present. They just actually dropped a brand new album today titled Disharmonium, Undreamable Abysses. I will be including this album in my overall ranking. Luckily, the stream of the album came out on Monday, so I've been fully diving into it over the course of the week, so we'll see where it falls in the grand scope of things. But yeah, very interesting band. Very hard to put a label on. They combine a lot of different elements into their sound. You could call it loosely like atmospheric, avant-garde black metal, but there's also a lot of like industrial metal elements and like dark ambient, very experimental stuff. Even from album to album, it really changes. Never really do the same thing twice too often. Album to albums, yeah, sound very different from one another. The mastermind behind this band is named Vinsval. It's essentially a one-man band for a long time. Maybe there's been some other members that have come and gone, but this is basically his creation. He started it when he was like 14 or 15 years old, which is amazing. So they do have some different types of albums, some that are definitely more on the like industrial side and some that are more just on the black metal side. My preference is definitely the black metal, like the albums that are more on the black metal side for sure. It's just my preference. Really has a great sense of melody with his guitar playing. The black metal riffing is truly his own style, just like really gorgeous melodies. There's such beauty in those albums and in those songs. But then on the industrial ones, it's like the complete opposite. There's really these like suffocating industrial vibes. They're very like nightmarish, hellish landscapes. There's almost like a yin and yang to the albums that there can be like such like melody with the black metal, like such serene moments, and then on the opposite side you got this terrifying industrial black metal. But they really excel at both types, so it just depends which style you're more into. As you'll see from my ranking, I am much more into the black metal stuff. So there are 14 albums here. This might be a lengthy discography ranking. I can't say the discography is flawless. There are a few albums that I don't go back to that often because they're just not my thing. But once I get into the top 10, those are pretty much all very solid albums. And especially when I get into the top 5, like those are the albums I go back to so often because those are just top-notch, absolutely stellar albums. So anyways, before I ramble on too long here, let's just get right into this. So it may seem on these first few albums that I'm being a little negative, but don't worry, it'll get to better stuff very quickly. So coming in last place, in 14th spot, I'm going with the album Mort, which is from 2006. So this was the 5th album, and all the song names are just like chapter 1, chapter 2, so I won't really pick out favorite songs or anything like that. But I really find this album just very like monochromatic, very one tone. It does have a very suffocating and like unpleasant atmosphere throughout. However, like that's kind of all it is. I don't really find too much uniqueness in this one, even from track to track. It's kind of all the same. So it just is kind of lacking in dynamics compared to some of their other albums. So I don't want to completely write it off. It's not absolutely terrible, but definitely one that I don't go back to very often. And even when I do go back to it, my opinion hasn't really changed. It's just not one that I enjoyed that much. So easily coming in last place for me. Up next at number 13, going all the way to 2017 with their album Deus Saltus Mei. Probably mispronouncing that, but yeah, I have no idea how to say that. So this one is a very murky sounding record. It's just a hellish journey. The one knock, I guess I'll say, is that the songs are pretty similar sounding. The riffs are kind of simple compared to some previous albums, even in the same kind of style. They're just not necessarily as interesting. It's another one that's kind of flat, monotone in a way. I will give it props for really like doing a good job of setting the mood with the atmosphere though. Like it is definitely setting out to do, like it accomplishes its goals of what it's setting out to do. I just don't really think it's their best. They've got some better albums in this style as well. So that's why it's coming in at number 13. Up next at number 12, I'm going to 2007, the follow-up to Mort, which was Odinist, The Destruction of Reason by Illumination. Very tongue-twister title there. So this one is definitely a little bit of a step up from Mort, but I still don't think it's on par with their best. It's really full of a lot of like odd time signatures and strange riffs, which I do enjoy. It's got this really like creepy atmosphere overall. A lot of industrial elements incorporated here with the sound. It is a challenging, interesting listen, but I do find it kind of meandering in parts to some degree. It's definitely an album that's best listened to as a whole. Like I could pick out a couple songs like The Sounds of the Universe and Odinist. Those are standout tracks, but really pretty much all Blut Aus Nord albums should be listened to as a whole. So as I go through this, I will be naming some of my favorite songs, but really you got to listen to these full albums to really gather everything, what the album's going for, and to just sink yourself into it. So anyways, yeah, that's in at number 12. Let's move this right along. So coming in at number 11, I'm going with their third album, which is from 2001, The Mystical Beast of Rebellion. So their first couple albums were more in the black metal vein, and then this is where they started to experiment a little bit more. Completely like 90-degree change from those first two albums, really bringing in more of an industrial tone and sound and aesthetic as well. It's got a really chilling atmosphere here though, but the guitar tone is very mechanical. I do think this album is decent, but I do find it a little bit repetitive, very simple in its approach. It's another one that's very nightmarish and murky in the sound. The atmosphere is definitely executed very well, but it's another one that I don't necessarily go back to a ton. I do like this one a little bit better than the first three that I talked about, but it's still not quite on par with their best. Another one where all the song titles are like kind of 1, 2, 3. It's like The Fall, Chapter 1, Chapter 2. So there's not much to distinguish each song from each other, even in title and in sound. It's just kind of like minimalistic drone, which is not necessarily my go-to kind of music. There's even a bunch of weird silences in the songs that kind of ruin the flow of the album, in my opinion. So all in all, another one that's not really a standout outside the top 10. That's why it's in number 11. Okay, so now let's get into the top 10. This is where it starts getting a little bit better. The negative stuff will mostly be out of the way. Let's get into some positive comments. So coming in 10th place, I'm going to 2011 with 777, The Desanctification. So this is the second album in a trilogy. I obviously haven't talked about the other two albums in this trilogy yet. But yeah, this one of the three albums in the trilogy is my least favorite, but it's not bad at all. Obviously, I'm putting it in my top 10 here. It's kind of got this like constant balancing act between this like dissonant, very strange black metal and then this harsh industrial kind of style. But then there's these like lighter atmospheric passages as well, and it kind of blends it all together. It's very similar to the first album in this trilogy, which I haven't talked about yet. But that being said, I don't think it's quite as chaotic as that one, and it's a little bit less engaging, so that's why I'm ranking this one a little bit lower. It's definitely still decent, but not my favorite. Definitely more on the industrial side than the black metal side. These songs on here, once again, this one's just like epitome. Well, the first trilogy is 1 to 6. This one is 7 to 13, and the last one is like 14 to 18. But out of these 7 to 13 tracks, my favorites are probably track 10 and 12. But that being said, once again, listen to the album as a whole, because you got to really digest everything that way. So anyways, that's in at number 10. Moving it right along, up next at number 9, let's talk about the brand new album that was just released today, Disharmonium, Undreamable Abysses. So obviously, Blut Aus Nord albums take a long time to really sink in. So I have only been listening to this over the course of 5 days. So it's hard for me to put this much higher than this at this point when I've listened to all these other albums way more times than this. So who knows, this could go higher in time. But yeah, first impressions, I do like this album. It's got this really outer worldly sound, really like wobbly guitar, if that makes sense. It's very unique. It's got like this claustrophobic and nightmarish, terrifying atmosphere for sure. It's very like abrasive and murky, swirling riffs. All these adjectives work so well here. The vocals are pushed very much to the background on this album. They're almost like not present. They're just pushed way to the back. The guitars are really the focus here. It's very spacey and chaotic. but it's a very engaging album throughout, for sure. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be on par with my favorites by them, even after more listens. Like, I don't know as this will ever move up into the top 5, but this could climb a little bit higher for sure. Like I said, I need some more time to digest this album even more, but nonetheless, I do enjoy this. It's making my top 10. So far, my favorite songs on here, Into the Woods, Neptune's Eye, all in all front to back. There's not really any weak moments here. It's a very interesting album. Love to hear your thoughts on it down below. See what your initial reactions to this brand new album are. But yeah, for today, this one's coming in 9th place. Up next at number 8, let's go back to the 777 trilogy. Let's go with the first album in that, 777 Sect. This one is from 2011. This one is very much, like I was talking about the Desanctification, this once again is very much a fusion of like black metal, ambient, and industrial sounds kind of all together, but this album is so fierce and chaotic, even like ugly at times, yet at the same time it can be like hauntingly beautiful. It's such a unique sound. It's very, like, it's a challenging listen for sure. It takes a lot of listens to really understand what's going on. The drumming is programmed here, but it's very relentless. And it's a great way to start this trilogy. Keeps you engaged throughout the whole thing. It's just very aggressive and deranged. Once again, the tracks are just like epitome 1 to 6. My favorites are probably number 2 and number 5 on this album. But yeah, just listen to the whole thing. Very chaotic album. Solid stuff though. That's why it's in number 8. Moving this right along. Coming up next at number 7. Maybe some time for some controversy. I know a lot of people think this is the best Blut Aus Nord album, but for me, it's coming in 7th, and that is from 2003, The Work Which Transforms God. So this one was the follow-up to The Mystical Beast of Rebellion, where they had started some more experimentation into the industrial side of things. This one progresses the style from that album quite a bit, but infuses it with a lot more melody. There's less repetition here. It's a lot more of an engaging album. It's still got that like mechanical feel, but it's very eerie in the atmosphere. The guitars have that great dissonance that I absolutely love, but it's a lot more varied than The Mystical Beast of Rebellion, which is why I'm ranking it a lot higher. It's just a truly haunting album. It's like a perfect soundtrack to a nightmare. Like, this is a scary album to listen to for sure. You gotta be in the right mood to listen to it. It's really solid stuff for sure. I understand why everyone loves this, and I'm not saying I don't. It's just I like some other albums a little bit more. But best tracks on here, The Choir of the Dead, The Howling of God, Procession of the Dead Clowns is pretty cool. So all in all, very solid stuff, very enjoyable album. That's why it's in at number 7. Moving this right along, coming in just outside the top 5, I'm going with the final chapter in the 777 trilogy, Cosmosophy. Might be mispronouncing that. But yeah, this one, it's just got much more of like an atmospheric, ethereal feel than the other ones in the trilogy. It's got this really like dreamy and spiritual feeling to it. It's very beautiful. It kind of breaks down the boundaries of musical styles here. It's very hard to put a label on this album. There's even some like post-black metal parts. There's like not necessarily much black metal here, but a little bit. There's some very interesting clean vocals as well that are very well done. And it's just got this like trance-like soundscape that they are so perfect at capturing these feelings. There's definitely some weird stuff going on here too, like Epitome 15 is very strange. Definitely not one of my favorites by them, but the rest of the album is pretty solid other than that song. My favorites are probably 14 and 16, but once again, just go listen to the whole thing. Really solid stuff coming in just outside the top 5. But now let's get into the top 5. This is where it gets really amazing. These next 5 albums are absolutely awesome. Easily some of the best albums out there. I could listen to these all day and not get bored of them. So let's see what order I got them in. Coming in at number 5, I'm going to 2019 with the album Hallucinogen. So this one, wow, a follow-up to Deus Salutis Mei, and it sounds absolutely nothing like that album. This is definitely more in the black metal vein, but very much the atmospheric black metal vein. Like, this is very clean sounding. It's almost meditative, melodic, atmospheric black metal, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of like progressive influences going on, and it's got like this very psychedelic vibe. A lot of the riffs are just kind of trippy and spacey. It's such a nice album to just drift off to It's almost like easy listening, but it's intoxicating with these gorgeous melodies. Once again, the vocals are kind of pushed to the back. That seems to be a theme with their later stage of this band. There's more focus on the melodies and beauty of the music, but yeah, it's just hypnotizing and relaxing. Super enjoyable style of black metal, but very unique. Not too many bands could pull this off to make such a beautiful album that's so easygoing, but still great riffs and melodies. Front to back, whole thing's awesome, but favorite songs would probably be Nomos Nebulium, probably mispronouncing that, Sibelius. I don't know how to say any of this stuff, so I apologize. But yeah, very solid stuff. That's what's in at number 5. Move this right along. They do have another trilogy, and I haven't talked about any of those 3 albums yet, so let's see what order I've got those in. So coming in 4th place is the closing chapter in the Memoria Vetusta trilogy, which is part 3, Saturnian Poetry. This is from 2014. So this one actually has an actual drummer on it. So a lot of their other albums are just programmed drums. It kind of gives it this like organic feel, which is very awesome. But it's got this very warm melodic sound. These albums are just some of the best black metal albums out there. They really know how to infuse these songs with such great melody. This album is definitely a little more straightforward than some of their others. It's got more of a traditional approach to the songwriting. Maybe not like as ambitious as the previous volume, which I haven't talked about yet, but it's still excellent. Still got these really memorable swirling riffs, earworms that are just going to stick in your head. It's just astral and atmospheric, yet gorgeous and dissonant all at the same time, and execute it so fucking well here. Once again, listen to the whole album, but favorite tracks, one of my favorite tracks by them ever, Forhist, really awesome. Paean is really good. Metaphor of the Moon, really, really solid stuff. That's why it's in at number 4. Up next at number 3, I'm going all the way back to the beginning, 1995, the debut Ultima Thulée. So this album, Vince Vaughn wrote it when he was like 15 or 16. That absolutely blows my mind, because you listen to the melodies on this album, it's like, how did a fucking 15-year-old write this shit? But it just really, this album creates this fantastical wintry atmosphere. This is more in the like traditional black metal vein, but still infusing it with these like ambient and like dungeon synth passages. And it's truly just an icy journey. The keys used here like really add these eerie melodies to these crunchy, like mid-paced chugging black metal riffs. But it's just so well done. The compositions on here, especially for a teenager, like come on, it is so epic. There's a definite Burzum influence here in like the layering of the guitars and the ambience, but I love Burzum, so that is not saying anything bad. I fucking love shit that sounds like that. But yeah, this whole album is absolutely solid. Favorite songs on here, The Plain of Ida, Till I Perceive Bifrost, The Last Journey of Ringhorn. Just all in all, absolutely solid stuff. This could even be higher than number 3, but for me, for today, it's in at number 3. So that leaves 2 more. Coming in 2nd place, I'm going with the 2nd volume in the Memoria Vetusta trilogy, Dialogue with the Stars. This is from 2009. I know this is widely hailed as possibly one of their best as well, and I obviously think it is one of their best. I've got it in 2nd place. This has got like a very warm tone to it. It's even more like a more melodic take on black metal than a lot of melodic black metal bands. Like the melodies that are explored in volume 1, it gets taken to a whole other level here. It's just really got these like cycling riffs, but it's so beautiful. Like this overall soundscape on this album is so vast and gorgeous. It's so epic in scope. It's a very riff-driven album, but still so atmospheric. Like another one that you can kind of just close your eyes and drift off to. It's a truly beautiful, trance-like album. It's full of these like mournful or sorrowful guitar melodies and leads. And the solos and guitar playing are like really on display here. Like Vince Vaughn is top-notch in this field. You don't hear this kind of stuff too much in black metal, and he really executes it so well. Favorite songs on here, probably my favorite track is The Meditant, but some other good ones, Disciples, Libration, Antithesis of the Flesh. But once again, front to back, there's no weak moments here. This is just a solid fucking album. Could have been number 1, but for today, I've got it in at number 2. And that just leaves one, which may be a shock to some people, because I don't think this one is necessarily as widely hailed as some other ones on here. But for me, this has just always been my favorite Blut Aus Nord album. It still just scratches the itch that I'm looking for with this kind of black metal. I absolutely love it. And that is, of course, Memoria Vetusta 1, Fathers of the Icy Age. So this is the sophomore output here. This is from 1996, the follow-up to Ultima Thulée. It kind of builds on the foundation of that album, but expands upon that sound. And there's even maybe like an epic Bathory era influence in here as well. It's just really epic stuff. The atmosphere created is just so amazing and mystical. And a shining moment on here is the bass. It's so like expressive and impressive in parts, which is not too common in black metal. A lot of black metal, you can't even hear the bass, but here it is just absolutely amazing. And there's some like icy keyboards sprinkled in as well for extra effect. And it's another one that's, this is an aggressive black metal album, but at the same time, it's vast and beautiful. It's just peppered with great solos and guitar melodies. The harsh vocals are absolutely great, and the clean vocals are actually very interesting and charming as well. That's kind of the selling point of why I think this is my favorite album by them. It's got some charm to it, that old school black metal charm being from the late 90s, that it's got that old school sound, yet still bringing in like all these melodies. And I just fucking love this album. It's so good. Pretty much every song on here is amazing. So many riffs. Like the riffs on this album will stick in your head forever. It's just fucking awesome. Favorite track is probably Sons of Wisdom, Master of Elements. But Slaughter Day is amazing. Day of Revenge, Fathers of the Icy Age is another one that is one of my favorite songs by them ever. Just front to back, absolutely amazing stuff. So anyways, yeah, this is very long. I'm over 20 minutes already, so I'll try to wrap this up. But just let me know your thoughts down below. What are your favorite Blut Aus Nord albums? What did you think of this ranking? Until next time, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Hammer Heart Metal Reviews. Out.